Mrs. Eleanor learned over time how not to be a burden. It wasn't a decision she made all at once. It happened slowly, the way silence grows when words no longer seem to matter. When her son Daniel was a child, she called his name, corrected him, insisted. When he grew older, she asked carefully. And when he became an adult, she simply stopped. Daniel was always busy. Work, deadlines, meetings. Whenever she called, his voice was rushed, already halfway somewhere else. "Mom, I can't talk right now. I'll call you later." Later never came. At first, Eleanor still tried. She called to mention a doctor's appointment, a strange pain, or simply to hear his voice. "Do you think you could stop by this weekend?" she asked once. "Mom, this weekend is crazy. Maybe next time." She hung up slowly, holding the phone as if it were fragile. Then she went back to her routine, pretending it didn't hurt. Over time, Eleanor learned to handle things alone. When she didn't feel well, she rested. When she needed help, she figured it out. When she missed her son, she kept it to herself. She stopped calling. She stopped asking. She stopped expecting. The house stayed clean. Coffee was always ready. But the silence became heavier. Not peaceful, just empty. One afternoon, Daniel showed up without warning. He walked into the house and immediately felt something was different. "Mom?" he called. "In the kitchen," she answered. He found her folding laundry, calm in a way that felt unfamiliar. "You okay?" he asked out of habit. "I'm fine," she said softly. He looked around, uncomfortable. "You don't call me anymore," he said. Eleanor folded the shirt carefully before answering. "You always said you were busy." Daniel laughed nervously. "You know how it is, work, stress." She looked at him without anger, without accusation. "I know. That's why I stopped asking." The words hung in the air longer than he expected. "You could have insisted," he replied. She sighed. Insisting gets tiring. Eventually, you realize when you're no longer a priority. Daniel changed the subject, talked about work, about schedules, about everything except what mattered. Eleanor listened quietly. When he left, he promised to call more often. She smiled and waved. That night, a tight pain settled in her chest. Not sharp, just different. She sat on the couch, breathing slowly, her phone nearby. For a moment, she considered calling Daniel. Then she placed the phone face down. She had already stopped asking. The pain returned the next morning. Eleanor got dressed and went to the doctor alone. She answered questions calmly, downplaying what she felt. After a few tests, the doctor frowned slightly. "Mrs. Eleanor, I'd like you to go to the hospital today for further exams. It may be nothing serious, but we shouldn't ignore it." She nodded. Out of habit, she opened her phone and sent Daniel a short message. "I'm going to the hospital for some tests. Don't worry." She didn't ask him to come. At the hospital, she sat among strangers, watching time move slowly. She wasn't angry, just tired. After several hours, the diagnosis came. Nothing life-threatening, but serious enough to demand care, rest, and follow-up. "Do you have someone to pick you up?" the nurse asked. "My son," Eleanor answered automatically. But he didn't come. She took a ride to her sister's house instead. She needed a break from her own silence. That evening, Daniel arrived home and noticed how quiet everything felt. "Mom?" he called. No answer. On the table, he found a short note.
I'm staying with your aunt for a few days. I'm okay. Guilt settled in his chest. He called. "Why didn't you tell me what was going on?" he asked. "I did," she replied calmly. "This time I just didn't ask." "I thought you were always okay," he said. "You're so strong." Her voice remained gentle. Strength isn't about not needing anyone. It's about learning to be alone when no one has time. The words stayed with him. "I never wanted it to be like this," he said. "I know, but it happened." The next day, Daniel drove to his aunt's house. When Eleanor opened the door, he didn't explain. He didn't defend himself. He just hugged her, slowly, carefully. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I forgot what matters." She held him for a moment before speaking. "Don't forget again." Daniel understood then that some people don't leave. They simply stop asking. And when that happens, silence isn't peace, it's a warning. Sometimes people don't walk away. They simply stop asking. They stop calling. They stop insisting. They stop waiting. And by the time we notice, silence has replaced what used to be care. If this story reminded you of someone, don't wait. Share your story in the comments. And if stories like this matter to you, subscribe to the channel. Some stories don't just end, they stay.